Hi, in this video I'm going to look at one of my very good lines in the French, and so far I haven't actually lost to this line. Every time I played it I've either drawn or I think I've actually won every game now, even in rapid play competitions. I first played this in the European Youth Championships in Italy about 2 years ago. So it's for black in the French. It's e4, e6, d4, d5, knight c3. It's knight f6, and against bishop g5, d takes e4. This is a well-known line. After knight takes e4, bishop e7, bishop takes f6, and now the main move is normally bishop takes f6, but g takes f6. That's what I played. And this is very interesting, but it doesn't look too good at first because black's king is now hasn't really got a good option where to castle. I mean, you don't want to put castle king side, but this is now probably not available to him, seeing as it's so open on the king side. Black's plan is in these positions is to play a6, b5, to gain a bit of space on the queen side. Play bishop to b7, knight to d7, and kick the knight by playing f5. And also you'll get control of this half-open g-file rook to g1, which could be a bit annoying for white. So simple continuation, the most normal. It's knight f3, and I play a6. And then most of my opponents play bishop d3. I mean, there is a line where you could try play with c5, an early c5 straight away here. But this is not so good as a way that white can gain an advantage here. I'm not quite sure how it is. They play an early d5 in response, which made c5 a bit dubious. So a6, bishop d3, b5. Now this move just gains space on the queen side, and if white starts trying to attack the pawn, we can simply just push it on. And it's quite hard to deal with, because obviously if white pushed a c pawn, black wouldn't mind trading a b pawn for a c pawn. So here a normal continuation tends to be queen to e2. You tend to get quite a lot from white. They see the e7 bishop as sort of a weakness, so after f5, when the knight comes back to g3, if they have a rook on e1 as well, they might be able to sack on f5, and after I take, the bishop's going to be in trouble. So they tend to play queen e2, keeping their castling options open. Play bishop to b7. They could have a castle short, castle long. So say they castle long, then we could play f5, knight to g3, and the move I like playing here is bishop to d5. The bishop sits well on d5, it protects the e6 pawn, and also attacks the a2 pawn. It also stops trying moves like c4, and the idea of this move is just going to cement the bishop here. After like knight to d7, or knight can go to b6 or to f6. Whereas knight's going to be quite useful. We can go this way. Also, it's going to be quite very useful, either attacking the c4 square or coming into the e4 square. So king b1 tends to be played, which is always a good move. Protects the pawn, gets this king out of the way of any checks. So he's playing knight d7, carrying with a plan. Typical replies like rook e1. Now you see the danger of action in this position. They probably want to play bishop takes, and after pawn takes, knight takes, and then there's a lot of pressure against the bishop on e7. So the move that black can play here is just simply play king f8, which looks a bit odd, but you can get away with it after queen e3, which looks to exploit this king f8 move. Then you just play h5, and it's hard to see how white's actually going to get an attack here. h4 looks very annoying, so after h4 try to get this knight, this g5 square for the knight. Then white can play knight to f6 himself, and black always gets good position, I think, in these lines. He can even trade off the f3 knight if he wants to, and then stick his queen on d5. It's also another plan. Or the knight's going to come to g4, I think, in this position. This is a typical plan if they castle queen side. castle king side. Then we could play same sort of stuff, f5, knight to g3, you can play h5 here, threatening to go h4. So they can't play h4 because bishop takes h4. It's winning a pawn. Well, not bishop takes h4 straight away because knight takes f5. But it's definitely going to be an option in the future. That's why it's not going to be able to hold the pawn there unless he goes g3, but then the knight hasn't really got any good squares to go to. Also in these lines, if you protect the rook, then there's always options of playing bishop takes f3, queen takes f3 and winning the d4 pawn. Obviously that's no good at the moment because queen will take on a8. So say if white played, well, h4 looks a bit, doesn't look very good. It's weakening his king side, and h4 looks very annoying. So probably this is a good square to put his knight. So you might try to play queen e3 and hit now the idea of playing back to e2, knight to f4. As now he could continue, knight d7. We don't quite want him to play knight e2, knight f4 just yet. As soon as he starts playing rook to e1, the idea is to play bishop takes. We can either play pawn here now, because if bishop takes, we can take the knight first, and if after knight takes, pawn takes, bishop takes, there's no knight attacking the bishop. We could play king f8, get out the pin straight away, or even bishop takes f3. And after that, knight comes back to e2, then knight to f6. You see that black has a comfortable position here. Knight probably going to come to f4. You can play knight d5 and trade off this knight if you want to, or we can keep the knight on, play knight to g4, rook to g8 is also an option. In these sort of lines, black can play queen to d6 and castle queen side, which looks a bit dodgy, but it's completely fine. And black has a very comfortable position here. He's already got his attacks already going on the king. This bishop tends to be a real monster in this game, in this line. There is a couple of options that white can try play after this f5 move. If you're not comfortable playing an early f5, it is quite sharp, this move. You can just play knight d7, play it this way. And then you can sort of wait to see what white tries to do. Quite a lot of players might play c3 just to protect this pawn again. And you could just keep waiting, play bishop to d5, out to rook here, then you can play h5. Then you could play f5 whenever you want to, or just play for c5 instead. Entirely your choice. I prefer playing with f5, it's a bit sharper. Creates a lot more winning chances for black. Especially if white tries to sack. If that doesn't work, then black will win very quickly. Yeah, the only other moves really after f5, they can play the knight back to c3, but this doesn't particularly make sense. It just runs into b4, and the knight's got to move again. And then knight to back to d2 isn't particularly that good either, because I mean, okay, if black takes it, the f3 knight, the knight can take it, and then it's this knight d2 move is justified. Make sure its d4 pawn's protected. But say if black was just to continue with knight d7, rook e1, knight f6, maybe c3 here, and even queen d5 looks tempting, or queen d6, or h5, rook g8. However you like to play it, it's very flexible this position. Like you would play knight into d5, that looks quite interesting as well, trying to go to f4. So maybe play knight d5 here, which makes sure the bishop on e7 is protected. It's probably more solid, and I'll play rook g8. The idea is coming to f4, and after, it's quite hard to stop this plan actually. Knight might come back to f1 to g3, but then that's just a waste of time, because it's just, we'll play our h5, h4 plans again. So that's pretty much it on this line. There's not really particularly much theory. I do know that Morozevich is playing this line as well. Can't really pronounce his name, but okay. He's played this a couple of times. Bishop takes f6 is also okay, but it's not. White tends to get quite a nice position. They tend to get like knight f3, and then castles, bishop d3, and then bishop e7 to try to keep hold of the bishop. But then white always tends to get quite a big attack in these sort of lines. And then they're going like h4, and then the knight comes into g5. Yeah, so these sort of positions tend to be quite dangerous for black. I mean, they're probably more solid if you know what you're doing. If you don't, you can get killed. Anyway, I'll be doing a video on my gxf6 line soon on a game I played at the Europeans actually, which I got best game prize for. So I beat at the time I was graded about 2,000 FIDE, and I beat a 2,300 I think it was. So it was a good result with this line, because he just didn't know what to do against it. So I got a very good position, managed to win. So anyway, thanks for watching. See you soon.